Welcome back and thanks for staying with us. This is Daybreak. With me in studio this morning, Council Nelson Harvey, Professor Peter Kagwanja, Sheila Lang and Ahmed Hashi. Council, coming to you, the President yesterday talked about, of course this is in connection with the state of democracy that we are discussing, as well as the report on the state of our civic space. Ideally then putting Parliament under the spotlight. Is it a case of the House becoming a punching bag, or it's part of the genuine criticism of the bicameral House?
The statement by the President complaining about corruption in Parliament is correct. But the facts are alternatively presented by the President. You know, we can't say that the President is lying. He has presented the facts in an alternative way. I say this informally because time without number, I've posited that our Parliament has been purchased, emasculated, and captured by the executive. The only Parliament that was informed and independent in the recent past was the one immediately before the promulgation of the Constitution. As soon as President Uhuru Kenyatta and Deputy President then William Samoei Ruto took over the reins of power, they captured Parliament. They have either coerced, enticed, or openly bribed Parliament.
Yep.
That's an open secret. So it cannot lie in his mouth to come and say parliamentarians, committees are demanding bribes from cabinet secretaries, governors et al. For them to do what is supposed to be done. You know, immediately he was sworn into office, he approached those 8 members of Parliament from ODM and brought them in. I mean, I don't think they came on their free will. They must have been given some consideration. And it has continued like that. Decisions are made on the basis of what is decided at State House. The other day we were told during the impeachment of former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua that members of Parliament from the National Assembly to the Senate were paid to undertake this nefarious enterprise. Yep. So if that be the case, Mr. President, then you have no moral or legal footing to make these pronouncements. But assuming that is true, are you without power to countermand this? About 4 years ago, we gave you an advisory to dissolve Parliament because Parliament is unconstitutional. So if you verily believe that Parliament has become a house of brats, dissolve Parliament. Stop complaining to us. It's as simple as that.
Okay.
The National Assembly reminds one of notes from the underground. In college, you read a book by Fyodor Dostoevsky, and it seems like that the National Assembly is not, there's nothing national about the National Assembly, nor is there nothing assembly about the National Assembly. Because the characters that are in the National Assembly is just a gross and shameful dereliction of their fundamental constitutional rights and their rights to oversee the state of Kenya. The National Assembly is at the heart of our constitution. You know, there's nothing more important than that. But you see, institutions need men and women of character to make those institutions alive. You could give Donald Trump, the President of the United States, right? And he makes the place alive because, no, I completely disagree with him on everything, but he's got a sense of what he wants to do. What is it that we want to do? The question that we have to ask ourselves is, what do we want? And where do we go from here? And I think that we have, here in Kenya, we have reached a certain apogee where the administration has captured this state, it has captured the National Assembly, it has captured the legal institutions, it has captured everything. And the lure of money and corruption, I think, is just insurmountable in this country. Because, you know, for an example, has anybody heard of the judiciary saying anything about this country? I mean, legal scholars and lawyers are, of course, standing up for a lot of freedoms in this country. But the judiciary, which is part of our government, which has got oversight on so many things, is just completely silent. You know, we have a Chief Justice who's just smiling her way out of that job. And the Supreme Court, nobody has taken anything to the Supreme Court to go and say, what do you think about this? Oh, the Supreme Court, what does it think about what's happening in this country? It's there. The Supreme Court chairman is the one who brought this, swore this president to power. So I think that if the media, individuals and other institutions in civil society are the ones who are standing up for things that are going on in this country, I think we're in much more deeper trouble than I thought we were. Lastly, I want to put it to you that I think it is true that the president is irredeemably just out of sync with what is going on in this country. I think he's doing everything on purpose. I think he's doing it because he thinks that psychologically he came from a very small place, you know, in this country, and he's reached the top of the office in this country. So any human being who has gone through that feels, you know, entitled. I mean, I saw him speaking about progress, and he went to his school. It was still School ya Matope in Sugoi. He passed his school, and his school was made up of mud. I mean, nothing had changed in Sugoi for 50 years. So I think that it's just astonishing that even, you know, the people who come from such roots become so conservative that they don't care. I think sooner or later, this blame game, you know, their blame game is Uhuru Kenyatta, Wamunyoro, the mountain, the game of 40 plus against one tribe. The discourse of 2007, 2008 is there. You could see what the deputy president is doing in the United States, saying that the president had met Al-Shabaab. I mean, for God's sakes. But you have a whole country here. We have a whole security issue there with Somalia. It's just irresponsible for him to say such things. And it is even more irresponsible if the president met those terrorists. What's going on in this country, Ayub? And, you know, most Kenyans are just astonished at what's going on in this country.
Prof, ideally we were used to, the cliche was that it's the executive that has captured parliament. Yesterday it was the head of the executive complaining for the executive against parliament. It seems that we are in political circus, aren't we?
No, not really. We must understand the nature and culture of the politics we are playing here. It's called populist politics. Simple and clear. Populism. And populism, in this particular case, is supposed to be what Ash is calling the blame game. You know you're guilty. You know certain institutions are guilty. Because what parliament are we talking about? This is parliament of UDA. All these members of parliament can be disciplined. If you really ready to take action, can be disciplined at the party level. If you really want to hold them culpable, then you hold them responsible at the party level. You get rid of them from the party, and because of that corruption. That's one. Two, it is the state that prosecutes. So why don't you arraign those parliamentarians who are guilty of that, or subject them to inquiry, as we're doing with the killings, you know, task force. In other words, the executive has no business talking, because it is the arm of government that is supposed to act. We are based on Montesquieu's what you call separation of powers, and the doctrine of separation of powers put at the executive at the apex, the equal among equals, the executive. And that's why it's called executive, because it executes. So it cannot talk. It can only act. Judiciary wait for people to be brought so that it can adjudge, for issues to be brought. That's its role. Parliament oversees the operations. Its main role is oversight of both budget and activity. So we need to read the Constitution clearly. We need to have the underpinning philosophy under the Constitution, so that when you begin to talk, then you know whether you're doing the right thing or you're doing the wrong thing. Talking for the executive is the wrong thing. It's part of our populism that we're involved in. And that is why you know, that's why I joined the party, PLP, because I believe that this country needs liberation. And why do we need liberation? Why should we bring the concept of liberation on the table? Because if we don't know what we're doing here, we need to liberate our minds, first and foremost. And then we need to liberate our people from those who cannot understand some of these things that are in the Constitution. There is absolutely nothing wrong with our Constitution. We have everything wrong with those who are implementing it and those who are interpreting it. So, yes, we have known for all the years, long before President William Ruto came to power, that Parliament has a problem. We knew that. Okay. We have been talking about electing men and women of integrity. That has not happened for the last 2 decades, 3 or 2 decades, since the multi-party came in. Yes. The first group of those who were elected as multi-party leaders in Parliament, some of them, James Orengo and others, were people who were in the trenches. They were accountable, and they could do a lot of things. We could see. After that, that's not the case. But is it the executive that is supposed to throw the first stone? Okay.
Or the legislature.
Or the legislature.
Yeah, and Council, that brings me to the point. At the height of the finance bill debate in 2023, the president, while speaking in Narok County, said, I will want to know members of parliament who will oppose this finance bill. And it ended up passing, became an act of parliament. Is this a house that you shall hard when you want to serve your interest? And ideally, how concerning is it in a constitutional architecture like ours when members of parliament really understand the powers that they are granted by Katiba?
I always refer to the statement by my teacher and good friend PLO, the collapse of the state, the collapse of the executive, the collapse of the legislature, the collapse of the judiciary. But you see, the legislature is the house where the sovereign is domiciled because it is constituted of representatives of the people. That is why in other democracies, it is called the House of Representatives. So if the representatives of the people can be looked at from this prism, where the president looks at them as extortionists, but we have rightfully said the president has created them as extortionists. We, the people, look at them as traitors, but we cannot be blamed because we give them a limited contract of 5 years to do right. In between, they decide to do wrong. And nothing depicts better the doing of wrong by the representatives of the people than the issue of passing of the finance bill. And I remember vividly, they came, all of them, and said, we will pass the finance bill. Arrogantly so. And then when there was uproar from the people of Kenya, majority of them being the Gen Zs, the population of Kenyans between the age of 18 and 30, the president caved in. But before caving in, he came with a rebuttal saying that I will take drastic action. I think that statement must have been made first in anger. But on reflection, he decided to retreat. But the retreat was also deceitful because he reorganized his cabinet, so to speak, yet he ought to have gotten rid of the entire cabinet. He decided to negate his assent to the bill. And the foolish representatives were there clapping as if something good had happened. What Prof has said here is true now than ever before. We need representatives of the people, individuals who are not only independent in their mind, but independent financially. Absolutely. I've coined this term before. I used it on some 8 council members, financial elasticity. You cannot have members of parliament who are financially elastic. Point number 1. Number 2, members of parliament must be intensely informed in the affairs of government, in whatever field. Be they engineers, be they teachers, understand, be they dock workers, be they lawyers, they must be informed. A majority of members of parliament right now do not belong to any professional body.
At all.
The other day I saw somebody reading hard for a PhD in a university in Murang'a. Where? That's bullshit. It's stupidity. It cannot be countenanced. You understand? And I blame part of the intelligentsia. The people who have gone to school. It's not the guru. A school atop a tuck shop. People who have gone to school.
Well, not running for political jobs.
They have to run for office.
Like I am. In Langata.
But here's the thing then, Councillor Harvey. How then do we fix this democratic problem when it's the people who hold the mandate, they have all the sovereign power, and in a democracy the downside could be that a byproduct could be as bad as Donald Trump?
Let me just answer this question, Ahmed, because I'm running for office. I'm also pushing for presidential candidates. The other day somebody told me, you know, Maraga does not have money, does not have traction. It doesn't have gravitas, it's not brutal. we don't need a brutal president. What for? This is not Haiti. It's not from FEG. It's not Vietnam. This is the Republic of Kenya. You understand? We need the most docile president because the Constitution has elaborated clearly what has to be done. In fact, we can have a dog for president and the country will run. You understand? But what we need is an impactful legislature. People who will formulate, legislate laws for the better of the people. Individuals who will oversight the executive. Individuals who ensure that there is equitable distribution of the national revenue wheresoever. So that this national revenue is not used as a carrot and a stick for popularity in the name of economic empowerment. Individuals who will ensure that there is development throughout the country. You understand? And there are many of this. But see, when we go to the electorate, they'll start telling you, you know, you speak a lot of English, your overall is well ironed, your shoes are well polished. How is that my problem? My work, if you give me the opportunity to serve, is to do the 4 things in parliament. It's a brutal job. I mean, sorry to say, it may even require a tough, arrogant character. That is what we had in the name of Paul Mwite, James Orengo, Gitobu Manyara, Martha Karua. These were brutal individuals. So to speak, they were even arrogant. But that is what we need for the House. Not emasculated characters.
Yes, Sheila, I'll come to you, Ahmed. Yes, it's concerning, is it, given that we are debating Parliament and they have a lot of power to exercise, including the impeachment of the head of state himself.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I would concur with what my colleagues are saying. Sometimes I worry that we have people in Parliament who did not read the job description. I think we have to take responsibility as a citizen because we are seeing a product of, you know, the people that we placed in that House. And we also have to have some moments of reflection and ask ourselves, well, how do we change this trajectory? And I also speak as a lot of youth who are very frustrated with everything that was going on, and yet we are the same population that do not show up to vote. And that's why we've been drumming up civic education. We've been saying we're going to vote, we're going to get voters registration. Why? Because a lot of times we're told, yeah, Sheila, you complain so much, but you guys never show up at the ballot. And so I'm trying to tell the rest of us, listen, we have to show them who is in charge now, just like we did last year with the finance bill, that we have to change course. The way I see it, the way we see it as a generation is we are going through an economic revolution. No matter how I look at it, the buck stops with the fact that we're going through an economic revolution, and it cannot be business as usual. So you have Transparency International that ranked Kenya. Now we're ranking at 32 in our corruption index. And just for reference, 0 is when you are just completely corrupt, and 100 is like you're really clean. So it's like the way you score in an exam. So we are scoring at 32% in the exam of corruption. What I would have loved to see in that speech would be to say, today we are scoring at 32. That's the index where we are, meaning that over 35% of people are saying when they go into public institutions, they are demanded for bribes. And a good chunk of that is that they have to pay these bribes in order to get things moving and going. So this is a systemic issue. Where is the systemic response to this? It's not about holding a microphone and having a populist position. It's about saying, systemically speaking, this is where the issues are. And systemically speaking, this is where the response goes. Because when we talk about issues corruption, it's not just that simple. And I would like to say that the buck always stops with the president. There's a lot of things that we are seeing, and I'm really frustrated because we have a tendency of sweeping things under the rug, but you do that with the people who don't forget. We have the internet, we have our phones, and we don't have jobs, we are idle. So the only thing we can do is keep you, hold you up to account or keep you up to task with what you're supposed to do. So where is the plan? What is the plan here? Because simply calling it out when we know that we've had issues of the executive and not knowing really where the lines start and stop, right? We saw this last year where they were smiling in State House. We were in the streets and we were saying we don't want the finance bill. We were being tear-gassed, pink-watered, everything in between. And they were just standing there pretty much smiling and saying, yeah, but we're going to do what we want. I remember this one scene that got us really upset when I think she's a senator who was being pinched in the cheeks, and we're thinking, I mean, I'm getting tear gassed here. I'm like, we're getting hurt here, and you're being pinched in the cheeks, and they're going to pass this, and the audacity of it all. So we have to have systemic problems in this country. The issue for me in Kenya has never been that we are poor. We are not poor as a country. Don't ever let anyone convince you that we're poor. We have enough resources, we have enough brains, we have everything that it takes. The issue we have is a corruption issue. The issue we have is that there's lack of accountability. The issue we have is that we have odious debt. The issue we have is that we're having more than 70% of our revenue going back to pay debts that we don't even understand how we came up with them in the first place. So it is an economic revolution. You don't respond to it with populist sentiments.
Yes, Ahmed.
I think that the intellectual discourse or the gauntlet that was thrown out by the Honorable Raila Odinga at the funeral of probably one of the great leaders in this country, Ms. Phoebe Asiu. And I want to send my condolences to that family, first of all, to Caesar and the rest. I want to just say that Mr. Odinga said that the young people were going to overthrow the government and that the state of Kenya could collapse. And he stepped in to prop up the government. And that people in this country did not understand history. And he cited the other countries in the region. He cited the Arab Spring. He cited all the rebellions against the state. And he said, is that what you want? Do you want this country to break? And I think that it is very important for us to call him out on that, because that's an ahistorical view about the history of the Arab Spring and what happened in this country. I think if political expediency by the Honorable Raila Odinga, who's probably the most outstanding citizen of this country in the last 30 years, and who finally succumbed to right-wing politics by the state, is a way in which there's this school called the Analysis School by a guy called Fernand Braudel, who speaks about the longue durée, or the questions of history over a long period, is that if progressive leaders like Mr. Odinga can succumb to this statism and to this appalling sense of contradiction, my learned friend's grasp towards asking for a new leadership is, quite open to us to see. And I think that we in Kenya need to really stand up and look this country in the eye and say, we deserve better. We deserve better. We also deserve the truth. We also don't deserve this tribal politics that these people are playing, because this country has been through hell over it. And I think that the young people who have rejected all these isms have a thing or two under their sleeves. Secondly is, I think that it is very important for us to recognize that we are teetering on the edge of something new. There are dark and forces that are pushing this country towards a bad place. And if the institutions of the people who believe in the constitutional system of government do not stand up now, I think we're headed for a disaster in the coming elections. And I've repeatedly said that here. And I think we need to wake up. See, for example, the cohesion institutions, the truth and reconciliation institutions. None of these institutions, the judicial institutions, none of them are speaking up. It's the media and some politicians who are demanding that we return to some form of decency in this country.
Yeah, and regarding the media, coming to you, Prof, the other critical institutions of our democracy. The report by the State Department also condemned what it termed as serious restrictions on media freedom and the freedom of expression, violence or threats against journalists, censorship and significant presence of any of the worst form of child labor. The president called on the media to report responsibly during the protest, claiming several media houses glorified anarchy by providing selective live of the coverage of the demonstrations. Seems that it's the media today that is speaking in places of institutions that are empowered by the Constitution and largely regarding this, plus what the president said yesterday about Parliament. It's concerning, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is concerning. But what the phenomenon we are experiencing now as a people and as a country is where democracy is being rolled back. We're seeing a backsliding on our democracy. And this has happened over the last, say 10 years. We got a constitution. We needed to implement it. It is not implemented to the letter, the way it is supposed to be implemented. And at the tail end of this, in the last 3 or so years, we have seen a deliberate assault on the Constitution and the citizen. And that we cannot deny. In other words, the state is assaulting the citizen and also assaulting the law that is supposed to protect the citizen. So that is where we are. And the question is, who is going to guard the guardian? This is an old question that was asked in the Roman Empire. Who is going to guard the guards? And in this particular case, I think I concur with Hashi in regard to the moral opposition. Because the problem we are having today is essentially the fact that the government or the state as such has succeeded in totally emasculating the state. And talk about bribing, because things must be stated in black and white, not in gray, in shades of gray. That I don't think Raila Odinga is there championing the interest of the state, of the nation. This moral whitewashing is not making sense, whatever he says. We are saying this because he has responsibility to us.
Yes.
I voted him.
Oh, yeah, me too.
I personally voted for him, woke up in the morning to vote for him.
Yep.
When I hear him speaking like he was speaking yesterday, I feel like shedding tears.
Shocking.
Not just for him, but for this nation. Why? I voted you to stand up for Kenya. Not to stand up for yourself, not to stand up for your family, not to stand up for your friends.
I agree.
You have to stand up for a bigger value than just yourself, your family, and your friends. Now trying to distort history and distort facts by saying that the Gen Zs were overthrowing this government with their phones and their water bottles. We never saw any Gen Z going to Mount Kenya Forest or Mount Elgon Forest. When Kimathi, the Gen Zs of Kimathi time, wanted to overthrow the British government, we know what they did.
Yes.
They took their arms, they raided police stations, and took arms and rushed to the forest. That's it. The Gen Zs had no intention. So what script is Raila Odinga reading? Now Raila Odinga now is defending a criminal state. The dichotomy in the working division in terms of morality and law in any country, decent country, is where we have the law-abiding citizen and a criminal citizen. What do we do with a criminal state? That's the dilemma of Kenya today. When the state decides to take the position of a criminal, what we need in this country is a moral nation. And we need to fight for a moral nation. Because you cannot defend the law, you cannot defend the nation without asserting the morality of the state, the morality of the people, and the society that underpin it.
Yes, I'm going to and Council, coming to you, then when you look at this protest compensation plan, which has fueled storm, Raila's assertions, likening what transpired yesterday, last year, to the Arab Spring, what kick-started with Mohamed Bouazizi setting himself up on fire in Tunis, which ended up with the first casualties, and Abidin Ben Ali, later spreading up to Egypt and to Libya and to Syria as well. But ideally, him being the beneficiary of this consensus democracy with the president, who termed his association with Uhuru Kenyatta as a mongrel democracy, ideally is not supposed to be fitting and working with our constitution, is it? We need to work with our institutions.
Several things. This compensation is blood money. Nobody should accept it.
Yeah. Wow.
It's as simple as that. Don't accept blood money.
It's true.
We need the people personally responsible for the killings, abductions, and torture to be held accountable through a judicial process. There is a remedy through which they can be personally be compelled to pay damages. That's number one. Number two, I've listened to the lamentations of Professor Kagwanja here and my friend Ahmed. You've cried that you voted for Raila Amolo Odinga and you are disappointed.
It's true, I'm lamenting.
Two things. One, do not be disappointed. Raila Odinga did the right thing, sorry to say. The right thing peculiar to him. You expected him to be like Jonas Savimbi, to go back to the bushes in his 60s to be killed? No. He's fought for you people. Were it not for Raila Amolo Odinga, will not have this constitution. So the people of Kenya must shut up and stop crying. You must now fend for yourself. This is how the two of you will fend for yourself. I want you to vote for David Maraga as president.
Will you, Ahmed?
I'm going to vote for myself in Langata.
Yeah, let
I want to say one...
Hang on. Let me finish, Ahmed. I'm pitching.
Okay.
I want you to vote for him. Understand? My sister, Sheila, it's not an economic revolution. This is a 15 million ballot revolution. 15 million constitutes the youthful population. It is sufficient to transform this country to the leadership you want. So the two of you, when you are children, when your grandchildren come to you and say, we want Maraga as president, please yield to their call. But I will not hold it at that point in time. Kagwanja.
Yes, my cousin.
I beseech you, go and speak to Rigathi Gachagua. I have this premonition that he'll have control over parliament.
Me too.
Can he see to it that he supports Maraga for president? That is the prudent thing to do.
Okay.
Lastly, we need a pivotal, focused, buoyant, and effective parliament. When you see me on the ballot, please vote for me as member of National Assembly.
Very good.
I'm available like a bride. I don't have a party. If you must of necessity give me a party, give me a good party. But if you can't give me a party, please just propel me.
The last time Prof had pitched twice when he made submissions, I'll come to you, Ahmed. On a point of information, he said that the country needs a mother's touch.
A point of order. There is a point of order, just a few sentences. I agree with much of what my learned friend has said. You see, Mr. Odinga grasped at the moral authority in this country. And therefore, the charge of us getting a backlash is natural. Because when you, for 30 years, stand up for certain things, and then on the day that you're supposed to be decisive about it, Winston Churchill said that before Alamein, we did not win a victory, but after Alamein, we did not lose any battle or wars. And then we come at the cusp of the well, and he is brought in by the tug of a new fascist mentality that is in this country.
Can you allow me to overrule this point of order? We must stop crying about Raila.
I'm not crying about it. I'm just saying.
He's entitled to his peace.
I'm just saying.
Entitled to his retirement.
That discourse is there. That discourse is there.
Forward.
I agree. But he is buttressing the government, and therefore he's also fair game.
Fair game of criticism?
Yes. The criticism has to work. If he's buttressing the government and he's politically active and he's saying this administration is right, he's fair game to the intellectual in this panel, because he is responsible for the moral reach. And then when he said, now I'm abandoning the moral platform, I'm just going to go, he should have just retired and named a successor in Azimio so that we could have an opposition in this country. Right now we're in the doldrums of Golgotha.
Yeah. There is something they call the Stockholm Syndrome. I think that's what Raila is suffering from.
Are we there?
Yeah, no, it's what you are suffering from.
The pain.
That you begin to fall in love with your captor.
Yeah.
Have you ever?
Yes.
It's when you are captured, and then when you are captured, you begin to feel that you begin to fall in love with those who captured you. I think that it just needs to be cured from that Stockholm Syndrome. But the truth of the matter is that as country constitution, you asked that question, and my brother to my right did not address that question. I expected it to be addressed. That what kind of government are we having, and is it constitutional? Because the constitutional lawyers, is consensus government, as currently stated, call it broad-based or bread-based or whatever others call it, is it in line with our constitution? This justification that it is an emergency government coming to rescue us from the Gen Z's protest and others, because that's the main argument. At the heart of the current government is the argument that it is endangered by the protests, by the young people. And therefore, the justification of Raila, abrogating his role as the custodian of the opposition and the alternative values in our community, is that there are Gen Zs there. But is the government as constituted now in line with the constitution that we swore to defend? I may be asking now, future generations will raise the same question, because we may have to begin asking, do we need to go to the ballot at any time? Because if every time we go to the ballot, then people find excuses to abrogate the constitution and form consensus governments that are made of friendship, and then you build those governments on basis of civilian coups. The removal of Gachagua was not the removal of an individual. Don't forget about that. Wow. Because people focus on Gachagua as an individual.
Wow.
I would possibly have removed Gachagua myself because he may not be my friend, okay? I may have asserted him because he's my friend, but that's at the individual level. Look at what you did at the vote of the citizen. 4.57% of the vote that brought William Ruto to power was from Mount Kenya. And then you'd remove them from power. In that regard, what do you call a civilian coup? What other coup do you need? So this government is resting on a coup, and it's moralizing itself as a salvation government. And who are you saving us from? From our own citizens and actually our own children. These are my babies in the house. They are the ones who are threatening you.
But Prof, to just follow up on your submission, the voters in central Kenya were equally disgruntled by the finance bill in 2023 that Gachagua supported one day. They were disgruntled as other Kenyans were because of the punitive tax proposals.
Yeah, but that's what we are saying.
It's never about his impeachment, is it?
Yes, that's what we are saying. It was this was not about Gachagua. It is about turning. I mean, the people elected Raila Odinga, and they won. Raila lost. Then you bring him through the back door and remove the person with whom they rallied as they were going to the government. This is the whole issue, as it were.
Yeah, the disgruntledness was not about Raila coming to power, is it? Because look, in 2023, this country had a debate of a finance bill that was translated in all the languages, across the board, in mother languages, for your even mother to understand, mine to understand, Ahmed, Sheila's and Kansel's. Ideally, then, at what point are you quantifying and basing it on your argument that this is now a regional disgruntledness because of Gachagwa's removal, yet like other Kenyans,
I'm not talking about
equally concerned.
No, I'm not talking about Gachagua. Yeah. I'm talking about turning your back on the people who voted you.
Yeah.
The sanctity of the vote is that you remain true to the people who put you to power. Yeah. This is what I'm saying. Yeah. And whether it's Gachagua or Kidiki was also there, Abraham Kidiki was also there. He was part of that team that was put into the government. Now, meaning that the vote doesn't matter anymore in this country.
Including the coup.
Then that's the problem I am having with the consensus government. Yeah. Because the consensus government, you're put into power by X.
Yes.
And you govern with Y.
But we have to also ask ourselves.
Including the coup in Karen.
Yes.
We also have to ask ourselves.
The MPs voted for Kindiki.
The
president opted for Gachagua. I'll come to you, Councillor, briefly.
Yes. We also have to ask ourselves that the people of Mount Kenya were presented with the most progressive politician in this country for the last 30 years, and they rejected him. Raila Odinga. Raila Odinga has said, I was rejected. I'm not going to go after your vote again. You're one of the largest votes in this country. You rejected me and elected the most right-wing president we've had in this country. And I feel that it's wrong for Mr. Odinga to say this is your comeuppance. I think that's not politics. I think that's ethnic nationalism. But just as much as we have a right to criticize Raila Odinga for his lurch on the moral authority, we have a right to criticize Mr. Kagwanja's assertion that the people of Mount Kenya, that there was a civilian coup because the Mount Kenya people are not in power. But they also did a civilian coup themselves. They rejected Mr. Odinga when the vote came, when the push came to shove, which is their right.
Yeah.
That's the history of this contradiction.
Yeah. Yes, Sheila.
Thank you. I think we've been having a very intense debate here.
Yes. This is great.
And if I could just jump in for a second, I think let Raila Odinga be Raila Odinga. If you sit in my perspective, the big fight for me is coming on that ballot in 2027. And whether you like it or not, there's 70% of this population that if you ask them about all this history, they don't even understand that. And that's why I keep insisting it is the economy. If you don't get the economy correct, if you don't get human rights correct, if you don't get education correct, if you don't get investment and job opportunities, manufacturing back here, if you don't get opportunities for our largely unemployed populations, it doesn't matter who you are. You could be anybody and you're going absolutely nowhere. That is the frustration that we're seeing here. There's a lack of opportunity. There's a lack of systemic investment in order for everyone to be able to have purchasing power. And this is what I keep saying. Because many people are asking, even in the regions where they're taking a lot of the goodies there, if you go back down to the youth, which is most of the population, and you ask them, but why do you still have a problem with President Ruto? He's doing everything. He's building the bridge, he's building this, he's doing that. What is your problem exactly? And for me, that's a symptom to show that you cannot shy away from systemic change. And even now we're talking about compensating victims of protests by giving the individual money. That will not be enough. We need justice. We need systemic reform. And I think we need to shy away from the old politics that we've been doing, putting ourselves in the small cocoons.
Agreed.
If you remember the people who showed up last year, I was one of them. And I always say this, it was partyless, leaderless, tribeless, and the rest of them. They seem to take this for granted, but there's such a powerful messaging that is being sent there that we have to now transit to an issue-based political system.
Agreed.
That is what the people are asking for.
Agreed.
Because when the system works, it works for you. Whether you like me, you don't like me. If there's a police officer in front of me, I am arrested, I'm taken to a police station, I will not get killed, regardless of my affiliation, my tribe, and whatever else is going on. It is issue-based. And sometimes we are caught up in the old lines and this and that. And it's normal because that's what you're used to.
Yeah.
But I keep telling everybody, listen to the masses. Let's not sit in a room somewhere and go back and forth completely out of touch with what is actually happening. Because if you saw that all the activities are going on, from the empowerment programs to certain regions now feeling we're part of the government, and then you're still seeing, there's some noise going on. And you're asking, but what is this silent noise? That is the silent sound of the majority. And there is no shortcut. You're going to have to fix the system from a policy perspective. You have to understand that your role as government is to provide an enabling environment in order for us to focus on the Constitution, focus on the issue, and liberate ourselves. Nothing short, nothing less.
Yeah.
And I keep insisting this over and over again. The majority of Kenyans, even in 2022, of registered voters did not vote, right? So you have them who, neither parties that we're discussing on this table were their president of choice. They're just sitting out there and they're waiting. So let's not get too caught up. And these are the ones who are coming out and saying, focus on the issues. Whether you're from Mount Kenya, a lot of us grew up mixed in different tribes and the rest of them. So we are having a really hard time connecting with some of these conversations. So let's just transit. We are the majority and we're going to show up in 2027.
Yeah, and Council, the viewpoint from young Kenyans is, let the system work for us. It's economic liberation. It's about human rights. From your perspective, what do you think would shape the next presidential poll?
Look, total dependence, and it's not complex. The people want, first, food. The people want, next, education. The people want, third, good health. This regime has complicated all those three. And to the extent that an economy-driven revolution will achieve sustainability on those three things, then the youthful population will be assuaged. It will be satisfied. Look, Ayub, much as you may want to belittle the issue of food, education, and good health, anytime I roll down my window, you see somebody says food. Anytime you're invited into a group, they say, we are raising funds for
Health.
For somebody to go to school. We're raising funds for somebody to go to hospital. The other day, I saw the president make the right decision, but very late, by saying that all governmental institutions should treat people for free. And I've said this on this desk with you, Ayub. We don't need this convoluted system of SHA at all for you to provide free medical care. Equip the facilities with medicament, with personnel. Let people be treated there. To me, that is what we decide, not the complexities of what we are seeing at the devolution. I mean, do we really need to go for a conference to be taught how to fry fish? Duh. Or how to package honey? No. It doesn't happen like that. But let me transport my argument further. Okay. Prof said that there was dereliction on my part in respect to that question of the form of government we have.
Yeah.
Kenya is a multi-party constitutional democracy with a clear dichotomy between the majority and the minority. Yeah. So to answer your question simplistically, it's wrong for President William Samoei Ruto to have embraced this conglomeration that he has with Raila Amolo Odinga. And I was the first one here to say it was wrong. And that was my point of departure with William Samoei Ruto. You cannot be popularly elected, then you invite other people to your homestead to destroy it. That was wrong. Yeah. It is immoral, it's unlawful. Yeah. Number two, William Ruto is also right. This is a mongrel, but he has tied a chain of the mongrel and dragged it into his homestead. So he has a mongrel. The mongrel will decimate him. It's as simple as that. But is this habit peculiar to William Samoei Ruto? I don't think it is. He reminds me of King Henry VIII, who had this appetite for so many changes that he could look for any reason to get rid of whoever it is that was working with him. You know, it is said in the William Shakespeare nomenclature, like Henry VIII, I will not keep you long. He doesn't keep good things or good ideas for long. You understand? That is the problem. And the solution to the problem is what we've been discussing here. But fundamentally, I need voters also to stop bribery. Voters must stop bribery. It's as simple as that. When you accept to be given money on account of economic empowerment, you're accepting bribes. When you accept to vote on ethnic lines, you're accepting bribes.
Okay.
You must demand of yourself the same things you demand of your leaders: accountability and transparency, as well as integrity.
Yeah.
If we have that, then I can guarantee the Gen Z, the 15 million ballot revolution soldiers, that you'll attain the good governance you desire.
Okay.
It's attainable.
Yeah. Yes, Prof. I'll begin the final comments before we sample the feedback, starting with you, Prof.
The final comment?
Yes, please.
Oh, yeah. I think Shira is right, that the axis around which our politics is going to rotate is economy. And I said at the beginning, long time ago, that whoever, it is not about any individual. It's about the economy. And whoever will stand against William Ruto, who is not on the economic side of things, will not make it. The point is, it's all about the economy in 2027. Why economy? Because it is through the economy that we are going to empower every other sector or institution. But beyond the economy, we'll have the need to restore a moral nation. And that moral nation, I've said again and again, is very, very well defined within our national anthem. Let justice be at the heart of our nation. Let us be united. When the Gen Zs are talking about partners, I see that concept of unity among the Kenyans, because we are diverse people coming from different geographies, religions, genders, and so on. And finally, it is about the plenty being within our borders. That is what we're talking about, prosperity and the economy.
Thank you. Sheila. Yes, Sheila.
I think I would disagree. It is the economy. And I would urge a lot of us, the youth and young people of Kenya, we have to keep fighting, because we are trying to liberate ourselves and have a future and a Kenya that we can actually sustain. We are not going to be hoodwinked. We have information, we have power, and we have the numbers. I keep telling people every single day, we have the numbers. We cannot be intimidated because we have the numbers. It is about the economy. It's about economic justice. It is about a system that works for all of us. We are sick and tired of, all the little cocoons that they keep trying to put us in boxes that will not work. Go get your ID, get your voter registration card. The battle for me will be on that ballot box in 2027. Let them go ahead and story mingi that they're doing now. That's fine. That's fair. That's what they're used to. But at the end of the day, if somebody is not coming to us and trying to explain to us how we are going to have jobs, how we are going to have medicine in hospitals, and how we are going to have an education system that is prioritized, then we are not listening. One of the presidency that is always hailed is Kibaki's, presidency. He was an economist. And what Kibaki did was not to have economic programs or give you cash at hand. What he did was to make sure that, your child went to school and you didn't have to pay for it. So the money you would have used there was used elsewhere. That's an example of what we would like to see happening in Kenya.
Thank you. Yes, Ahmed.
On foreign affairs, I think in September, UNGA is going to meet in New York. The world is going to recognize the Palestinian state based on the 1967 borders. And I think Kenya and the African Union should stand up for rights of the Palestinian people, whom we in Kenya also stand in solidarity with after seeing what has been going on, the kind of genocide that goes on there. So I want to remember Marwan Barghouti, the leader of Fatah, who is in jail like Nelson Mandela, and we hope Palestine becomes free.
Okay, and also condemn the killing of journalists. More than any other time in history. World War I, World War II, wars in Afghanistan and Iraq. So let's sample the feedback. The hashtag on X is Citizen Daybreak. The SMS code is 22422 at Citizen TV Kenya and at Ayub Abdikadir. Here's what we are saying. Frank Orinde says the president has openly admitted that parliamentary committees shut down the executive for bribes to doctor audit reports. That's not oversight. That's organized crime in suits. If the watchdogs are feeding on the loot, Kenya isn't being led, it's being looted. Silva says we must urgently strengthen our diplomatic machinery, equip our envoys for proactive engagement and prioritize regional cohesion. Unless we fix the cracks in our own backyard, our international posturing will remain hollow rhetoric. Bob Otieno says revelations by the president that MPs demand bribes for favorable reports is purely populist politics. Why doesn't he dissolve parliament and table evidence to the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission for prosecution in a court of law? Engineer Lazaro says the kind of populist politics being played by the so-called leaders will tear this nation down the tribal line and inflict more damage on our fragile economy if not properly checked. So Nixon Dugure says it's like some leaders are cunning and crafty. They are like that boy who farts in class, then tells the teacher someone has spoiled the air. Everyone in the class gets punished except the innocent whistleblower. And Frank Orinde says again, the mess in Kenya's political and leadership landscape isn't Raila Odinga's fault. Some leaders must stop hiding behind his name and take the bull by the horns. Own the mess and fix it. Leadership is responsibility, not blame shifting. Okelo Mwalimu says any leader who, through acts of dissimulation, disguises themselves as a victim and fails in service delivery deserves no mercy from the electorate. Leadership is an opportunity to serve, not to survive, a moment to lead, not mislead. Leaders must be problem solvers, not merely problem identifiers. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for your time.
Thank you, Ayub.
Council
Great show.
Asante sana, thanks for your time. Much appreciated. Prof, asante.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, my cousin.
Is the mother that the country needs, Mother Karua?
Yes, the softness of a mother. We are bleeding. We are bleeding.
Okay.
We are in pain. We need a mother.
See you in the National Assembly, Harvey. Don't run for president. It's more important for us to run.
You know, he's supporting Maraga for the president.
Yes, but run for Westlands.
I'm running for Westlands.
Yeah, so I'm running for Langata, and we get more people like Harvey, myself, if I can presume, and we can try and help and change.
Sheila, you're right.
I'll give you parties. I'll give you
Sheila is running for Kasipul Kabondo, is it?
No.
Migori County.
From Migori County.
Migori County, that's it. And we need more people like Sheila, and this country will change.
Yeah.
And I'll give you a ticket.
Yeah. I've not decided.
Don't worry. Whatever you decide, you have something to fall back to. When you are rejected everywhere, come.
Hi, cousin.
I'll be with you this time.
Many thanks, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Ayub.
And thanks for watching this broadcast. Up next is a cooking show, and we'll see you tomorrow morning here on Daybreak. Till then, good morning.